Hello, everyone, and welcome to Just Gaming Tingz Podcast, where we bring an all queer perspective on video games, gaming news, and nerdy stuff every Saturday live at twitch.tv. Just Gaming Things. Sorry, Gaming Teens at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the next day on YouTube and your favorite podcast services. Ooh.
Ooh.
I'm Pants, and I'm here with all my lovely, lovely co-hosts. Let's start from the top left. Dad.
Hello, hi.
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 I'm Ruby. Hello.
How is everybody?
Hello, I'm Spin. I'm also here.
Yes.
Coming at you with Giant Unicorn, our occasional co-host.
Absolutely. We love to see it.
Just what we needed today.
Unicorn is our fifth co-host for the day. He has a lot of opinions on all the gaming things.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready for all of them.
That's why he's so big. He's full of opinions.
Well, love that. Love that. Happy Queer Wrath Month.
Yes.
Happy birthday month to me. Happy Queer Wrath month.
Yeah, we love to see
Pride
it.
doesn't end at the end of June.
Turns out we're all still queer.
Right?
Could you believe? Could you imagine?
Imagine if we were like werewolves and it was just like the end of Pride. We all just go to being straight. Oh, the word.
We're just like going out.
Rotted.
We like wash off all the rainbows and it's just like black and white.
Oh no.
We melt away.
Yeah, we just melt
No.
away and become goo for the rest of the year.
No, not that.
Oh, well.
Oh my god. We're coming at you live from the goo pile.
No, not that.
Yeah.
Pile.
This Ruby.
And you finished it. What do you mean I started this?
We did start.
Should we talk about some gaming things
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Maybe.
before we become just gooming things?
No, you can't. No, you can't
Where's
blame me
that
for
extra
that
button?
one. Absolutely not.
You know, maybe I quit. No.
Maybe I hate it here.
Maybe I hate it here. Maybe this is Spin's last episode. Maybe that's the announcement.
Maybe the unicorn needs to come on instead for today.
Oh my god. I just popped him in the chair.
I know.
Oh my god. Anyway.
Anyways.
I did find something interesting for this week. So, y'all know it's hard to get a PS5. Like,
Oh, is it?
literally, like nobody has a PS5. No,
No one whatsoever.
absolutely no one. Literally no one. Pants just fades into the ether. But for GameStop, they're apparently locking the PS5 pre-orders behind their paid subscription service. So, like, y'all know, it's been a while since I've been to a GameStop, but when you go to a GameStop, like, the employees are, like, required to ask you. And I've worked in similar stores, so I know how much, like, managers are, like, pressuring employees to ask every single person to join the paid subscription service because I've been there. I get it. But it can be like very like predatory because like employees are like pressured so hard to make numbers, and like that ends up with like people cutting corners and like not fully explaining to you like how it is. I feel like a lot of those programs are just inherently predatory. And with the scarcity of the PS5, like they're basically like since stock is so limited, basically the only way you can even get a chance to get one from GameStop is if you are a pro member with GameStop. And I just thought that that sounded really, ooh, just like really off. And I wanted to get y'all's thoughts and opinions on it.
Okay, so as a person that was a pro member for like 50 billion years, um, I think it's interesting that they would put it behind their paid subscription, but also at the same time, it would be nice if they didn't only sell bundles, because people were saying that the cheapest bundle was like $600, and all of the bundles that they were selling were either like 750, or you were required to buy something else with it, like GameStop cards, or like even like the computer parts for like a whole monitor. So like I feel like if they at least wanted to only have it behind their paid subscription, they should at least, like not have the bundles be the way they are.
Right. I will say though that I bought mine on the bundle because I was very desperate, and I guess that's why. Mine did come with like, Spider-Man and Demon Souls, 2 controllers, and I think like the webcam, which is the only thing that I didn't need. So it's just like, at least it wasn't too bad. But it is like, you really should not, like, I feel like it's just in general, like a lot of companies now have been doing bundles, but even like putting it like a bundle and then a paywall is just like, what are you doing?
Too
Right.
much,
Like,
yeah.
I understand it's the yearly expense, but like maybe not everybody's going to GameStop enough to want that, or want the Game Informer magazine that they always offer. Like half the time I don't go to GameStop, really. I found other outlets. So it just is like, I don't know. I get it because I guess they want more people to probably go onto their membership. Maybe it's like slacking is my thought too. But it's also like this is not a great way to go about it. Because then it's like if you wanted more people, like it's already hard enough getting the rewards back, I feel. So I feel like you just have to like boost that and everything, like however dollar amount you need to boost it up so people are like more inclined to buy stuff so they can actually use your points instead of like sitting on points and then just never use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I saved up points since like literally probably like 2010. And for me to only have like enough for like a $20 gift card, like 10 years later, is a mess.
Yeah. I kind of understand from the point of view of like, this to me seems like it's a way for people to not to, it's kind of like to avoid bots. And I can see how we don't know what everything that's going on behind the scenes, but it could be one of those things where maybe Sony is being more careful about who they send their stuff to, and so they probably want to make sure that they either have a system in place to make sure that actual customers are getting the consoles in their hands, or if this is just a GameStop thing and they just want to be like greedy, or which could be all of the above, to be honest. Because it was also like a thing here, and I thought it was very interesting. It wasn't like a paid subscription or anything, but there was only one singular retailer recently that got stock of PS5s, and they got it for like maybe like an hour or something, and it was like also like a bundle situation, like they only sold bundles. So I wonder if that's more on Sony's side, and they're the ones kind of like, okay, we're gonna send this, but y'all need to sell bundles rather than just the console. It has to be this because we also need more copies of these games to go out to people. So, and they probably know that they can get away with it because nobody's really, getting their hands on PS5s anyway. So they're like, oh, I guess I'll get like a couple games out of this or a couple controllers out of this. So I guess it will be worth it. So yeah, I mean, I can't really blame them too much. I'm not a super fan of this because it's not very consumer friendly, but at the same time, considering the amount of like drama that is around like getting a PS5 to begin with, this is honestly the first retail that came up with something that's decent enough to avoid bots. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not perfect, it's not great, but at least it gives people that actually want a PS5 for themselves an actual chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will definitely add to the bundle situation. I've been trying to get a 3060 or 3070 graphics card. So I'm on the Newegg, and every time they do like a Newegg shuffle, which is their way of being like, maybe you might get randomly selected to buy whatever thing that you wanted to select on. But I feel like all of theirs is also bundles too. Even for like whenever there's an occasional like PlayStation 5 or the Xbox series, they're always like, oh, here's either like maybe the online card and like another controller or something, but they always like bundle it. And same thing with like their graphics cards are like, oh, do you want like the whole like PC? Do you want just a motherboard? And it's like, I don't know if that's just like the incentives now, maybe just to like get either more money or anything. I do wonder, like, because I feel like not all retailers are, but like I know GameStop's always notorious for their bundles, and I just wonder if like because of the scarcity of like a lot of objects now, a lot of the products, that maybe that's why they're doing a lot of bundles, just to be like, I don't know, here's like another thing to get you to buy it.
Maybe so, because like they know that people are going to buy the PS5s anyway, because like everybody wants a PS5 and there's like no PS5s. So like people are so desperate to get it that like they'll get it like even if it comes in a bundle with something they might not necessarily want. Or and I don't mind a bundle situation. I love a good bundle. Like I always love whenever I can get a console with a game, but when it's like a console with a game and a GameStop, this much GameStop credit, and I have to like pay a membership, I'm just like, and I mean, it's even so, it's probably still cheaper than getting it from like the scalpers, like on eBay or whatever. But like, still, it's just it does feel kind of gross.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like they're trying to extract as much money from the situation as possible.
I mean, yeah, everybody is, right, at this point. Like, if you go on eBay, it's I was gonna say I feel bad, but like I don't feel bad if you're like if you're willing to spend like $1,000 for a PS5. I'm like, girly, no, don't do this.
Yeah.
But I was tempted. Like the problem with scarcity is that it actually kind of works. Like I was very tempted. Like when I saw on my feed that there was a retailer that was selling it, I was like, "Wig!" And then I almost caught myself being like, "Ooh, it's 2 games." It's like the bundle was like Ratchet and Clank, and then I think it was like a $50 PSN voucher situation. So I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of fierce." Like 2 games, the console, whatever. But then I was kind of like, "Wait, but do I actually want it, or am I just like?" You know what I mean? Am I just falling into the hype of like, oh my god, it's available, so let me get it? And I was like, realistically, I'm not gonna really be playing anything on it that I wouldn't either have the time for, to be honest, or like I would probably prioritize other things anyway. So it definitely unfortunately works, the scarcity model, but I wish they didn't go about it that way, you know? But yeah, definitely let us know. I would love to see our comments or our chat on Twitch sound off on this one and tell us, what do you think. We definitely have more stuff to talk about, and this one is also pretty juicy. So this is the topic that I brought today, and I've seen it on Twitter for over the past week, and I thought it was very interesting, to say the least. So as some of you may know, Resident Evil is coming out with a Netflix show, and they've sent out early, I guess, what would you say, early copies to people for review, for them to watch and to make their reviews. And a lot of the reviewers found that there was an interesting thing in their embargo that clarified that when people posted a review, they weren't allowed to talk about any real world politics. Um, so, I mean, it's not you don't have to be a genius to play a Resident Evil game and not think and not see like the political undertones of it all. Especially it's like the series takes place in the US and then talks about the occupation of insert Middle Eastern nation here. And it's like, how do you not really compare, especially because usually those series and those and games and stuff like that, they usually have a little disclaimer that says like, this is all coincidental, like this is not supposed to, this is not about real life events. So what's up with that? And we always have that conversation over here, or not always, but we often have the conversations here about how games often are very political, yet sometimes developers choose to say like, oh, no, that was just, art. We're not, we didn't mean anything by that. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Dex last, because we talked about this briefly.
Yeah. So it's basically giving me very Capcom pulling a director of Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human, because they literally use like racial undertones, like racial discrimination throughout Detroit Become Human, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is such like an interesting take and acknowledgement of what's going on." And then 2 seconds later, the director is like, "Oh, no, it does not have to do with anything of that." So it's like it's giving me they want to capitalize off of what's actually happening in the real world, but they pose it as only fiction, detached enough from reality so they can like use it as their own. But it's like, oh, but there's no influence and it doesn't deal with that. So it's like this really being that they're like, oh, it's not political. And I'm like, not that I'm a master at Resident Evil, but I've seen the timeline. I've seen like the synopsis of most of the games. And there's obviously like the big thing with freaking capitalism, with like the Umbrella Corporation and stuff. There's them having like the abroad occupations in different countries, whether fictional or not. And it's like there's always something with like a corrupt president and stuff like that. And you can't tell me that that's like not political. Like heck, they're like in Revelation, it's like the upper class, higher class people have like a paradise while everybody else is suffering. And then guess what? Something happens to it. Like you can't tell me that none of that is inspired by anything political when you have like a president involved and like abroad occupations involved. So it just seems like a reach for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, especially considering current events, and like any kind of zombie story is going to be reminiscent of current events, because like global outbreak, like you can't expect people to not come into this with a political lens. And like all art is political, all video games are political, because like you can't come into creating art or creating a narrative without any kind of bias. Like you just can't. Like you would have to live under a rock your whole life and not know anything that's going on. So it's so wild to me to be like, this is a series about a global pandemic and like a government conspiracy and like the occupation of a Middle Eastern country by the US, but it's super not political. Don't talk about politics when you're reviewing it, please. What are you going to talk about?
I think the funny thing for me is like, I feel like if they didn't mention that, I feel like it's not like a lot of reviewers necessarily would go into it anyway. I feel like only like a certain handful of people would. And it's also another thing where like them and I feel like companies don't really understand that, but like by them making a big deal out of the politics in the game by telling people not to talk about them, people now are talking about the fact that they told them not to talk about it, and it's a bigger deal than
Exactly.
they probably wanted it to be in the beginning. So they could have just sent their codes to people. They could have just sent the series and people would have reviewed it and it would probably do really well. And now, guess what? The conversation is centered around the fact that they told people not to talk about politics in it. And you don't really hear, like, oh, what is actually what is the show about? How good is it? Like, now people, the conversation is, Capcom did this really weird thing and they told us not to talk about politics. So what's up with that? And then I love the way that we have a source from PC Gamer, and I love that they kind of literally talked about politics, and they were kind of like, but I guess I'm not really reviewing the show, but I'm not really talking too much about politics, so what's up with that? So I love that. Like, they basically just, they centered their piece around a reviewer's perspective, which means that this person isn't either reviewing or really talking about the show or anything. So they're like, well, I can talk about it because guess what? I'm not reviewing
Loopholes.
it. But yeah. Pants, what do you think about this drama?
I know. Well, everything that everybody see, because I'm just like, literally, you can just not. You have to look at Resident Evil and it's like clear, just in your face political, right? Like, as we've said. I really do not understand why, when it's also based around the president, it's like one of the main things for the show. I'm just like, so what do you mean? Like, it just really does not add up. I don't know if they're just trying to, like, I don't know, because you know how gamers are. A lot of gamers want to believe that nothing is political, even when it is right in their face. And then once you tell them that, then they're just like very angry about it. So I don't know if it's like trying to cater to that sort of audience, or if it is just like something else is going on that they just don't want to talk about it. But it's like, it was so clear from the get-go, even when they were, you just think Resident Evil, obviously it's going to be, once they showed the trailer and the teaser, you knew kind of what the story was about to be. It's like, yes, of course it's going to be political. So how are you going to stand back and just be like, don't talk about it or anything? Like, I don't know if do they want it to be like a surprise?
It's not political, but surprise, we
But
made
it's a
it
video
political.
game
We just
show.
wanted to see.
Right.
Imagine.
Another thing that I dislike is the trend that we're seeing of people putting restrictions on embargoes as far as like the topics of conversation, because it's one thing for whomever, the creator of the content, it doesn't have to be a game, it can be a series, whatever, they're fully allowed to tell you, like, hey, we're sending this early to you for you to review it. However, let's not talk about this. And usually when they say that, it's to avoid spoilers or to avoid critical moments that they want to be a surprise for people. But this happened with The Last of Us Part 2 as well, where they were like, hey, don't talk about this thing. And people were like, well, this isn't really a spoiler. It's literally like the beginning of the game, and they were like, "Don't talk about it," or "Don't mention certain things," or whatever. And so people, especially marginalized creators, which usually are the ones impacted by these things, they're the ones kind of like they're put in a position where now they have to talk about it because they got the code early, they got all that early, and they kind of are like, "Ugh, but I can't talk about the things that may be problematic about this because I'm not allowed to." And I don't like that specific part of it, because yeah, you're allowed to, as a creator, you're allowed to tell people to not mention certain things, but at this point it's starting to seem like creators are the creators of games and stuff like that, they're starting to almost use the embargo as almost like a way to censor reviewers. um Because if you think about it, the average person reviewing this is not going to get it early, so they're going to be able to talk about whatever they want. But the major publications are the ones that are going to get it. And I mean, you're more likely to find a review by a major publication than you are from just an average person or just a content creator not affiliated with any big publication. So it does feel like they're trying to, like, you know, tell a specific storyline, or they're trying to prevent certain conversations from happening, in especially in big, you know, platforms. And that is kind of worrying to me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
It sets a really weird precedent.
Mm-hmm.
Because with embargoes, are they like forever, or like, because like I know there's timed ones where you can't release like a review after a certain point until like it comes out or a few days after, but like if the people get it early, like can they not talk about it like for a while with the embargo, like even after it comes out?
No, after it
Yeah.
comes out, I believe they're able to like talk about all elements, but it's just
Oh.
like the very first review embargo. They'll be limited.
Right. Yeah,
Unless
exactly.
somebody wants to. I feel like unless there's another contract out there, they're just like, do not talk about this.
Right.
Mhm.
Unless they say that you're not allowed to like update the
Mhm.
the review or something like that, which you probably should. But like the problem is, like, a lot of people look for reviews either days before the show comes out or the game comes out to get an idea of like, oh, do I want to watch this, or is this going to be worth it? Or even just in general, like they see on their Netflix like, oh, this show is coming soon, they look it up and they see reviews of it and they're like, oh, let me look into it. And as much as like after the fact maybe like people are allowed to update their review, it's still not going to be, some people are probably not going to go back to it and be like, oh, let me see what was written there, or
Right.
or whatever. But I know with The Last of Us there were situations where people just scored the game highly, ignoring the things that they weren't supposed to talk about, and they really never updated it anyway. So for a lot of that, it's just kind of erased the fact that those things happened to begin with. Um, but yeah, usually they're just meant to restrict certain things, like, hey, the game isn't out yet, or like, you know, we're gonna release an in-depth trailer, or we're not gonna introduce this character, or don't talk about that. But it seems
Yeah.
excessive, to say the least.
At that point, I would rather have the great game 7 out of 10 instead of
Ah!
like instead of it being like, oh, 9.8 out of 10 because it's so great, but we can't talk about the reasons why we don't like it, so we're scoring it highly based off of emitting the things we hate. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Right. Or dancing around the subject, basically.
Right.
hmm Well, in other news, I brought the topic of one of I feel like one of the most like influential, I would say, VTubers out there. Kiryu Coco just graduated July 1st, which is very, very sad because she's only been around for like a year and a half, which is wild. And I would say she's been like, why I say influential is because she is also kind of a reason why a lot of people probably got into VTubers in general, because she speaks a little bit of English and Japanese. So she tries to do like multilingual sometimes to also cater to like everybody. So I think that got a lot of people, like English, speakers in and introduced them to the world of VTubing. And also, I should state that she's part of Hololive, which is one of the biggest ones. And she's part of like I think the fourth generation as well. So still pretty like new, but like not too like OG at the same time. But she also kind of paved the way for Hololive English, which is almost a year since they've been around as well. So she like really paved that way for them, and it's kind of sad to kind of just see her just go. And graduation just means like they're done with like VTubing, and it could be for anything, but a lot of speculation I will say was that maybe there was something within the company, but that's speculation. I will not add anything to it. But yeah, I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that, but I was just really sad when I woke up early and watched a bit, and it was really sad to just see her do like her little morning Coco show, and then it was like bringing on like all the generations just to talk to her. And then once you got to her generation, everybody was crying, and I was like crying.
Oh.
And then
Yeah.
they ended it with a little concert, which was kind of iconic, actually. Oh,
Aw.
and then her channel is not going anywhere, so everybody could still like see all the archived events and like the graduation as well, which is really nice. But as a VTuber, I had to talk about it because it was very much, I feel like, a hot topic and blew up on all social platforms.
Yeah, it's like I haven't like seen a lot of her content, but like I imagine like for her fans especially, it's like really sad. But like
Yeah.
I kind of get it because like I feel like a lot of people who have that amount of success like can kind of either like overstay their welcome and then like the internet turns on them, or like they just kind of like fade into the background and keep doing their thing, but like not as many people are watching them. And I think there's kind of something cool about just like coming in, making a huge splash, like being huge on the internet, and then just like stepping away at your peak. Like I think there's kind of something cool about that. Um, I imagine though it's really sad for her fans, and like I hope that even if like she's not creating content like as Kiryu Coco, like hopefully she'll do something else maybe. I don't know, but yeah, that was kind of my thoughts on it.
This to me kind of reads as like the person hired to play this character was hired. It seems like this is like a company situation, right? It's not
Mhm.
like it's
Oh,
like a studio
absolutely.
situation. So to be honest, it's probably like their contract was probably just a year and a half, and
Yeah.
it was one of those things where, without wanting to speculate or anything, it seems like it would be cheaper for the company to just hire someone new that would take a lesser, like a lower paycheck and just create a new character rather than
Mm.
paying this person more, because they probably wanted to negotiate and they probably wanted to ask for more money considering how successful they are. And the problem with a lot of big studios, especially as they head into the content creator space, um, is that they kind of underpay people for their work. Because in the beginning, and this reminds me immediately of Grace Helbig, this was like way back when YouTube was starting to make a big splash. So basically, there was this network, and they hired her to make daily videos Monday through Friday, and they paid her an amount of money that she wouldn't get if she just got started on YouTube, right? The problem is, after a while, she kind of overgrew the amount of money that she was making viewership wise, and they weren't updating her because that was the contract that they had. So whenever she wanted for more money, they basically fired her, but they still owned her. So all the archives are still there, but it's not her channel anymore, and she had to start a new one. So for me, it kind of reads as that. It's like, hey, here's the gig. You probably wouldn't make this much if you just got started as a VTuber, but we can, we pay you this much. And then after a while, she was probably, the person playing the character was probably like, what if I get more money because my character is very successful? And they're like, well, no. And that's probably it. Like, realistically, that's probably it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know because obviously we don't know their contracts or
Mhm.
anything, but it's just the same thing with like Twitch, where the main thing is obviously everybody else, so the super chats for YouTube, where they get tips for revenue. So I don't know exactly like if it's just like that kind of situation where it's like all the tips and then like only a percentage of it goes to the company. And then the rest of the percentage goes to the VTuber who's acting. But there's like they still have like their original VTubers as well. So there's been a few that have either retired or graduated. Um, so I don't know exactly. A lot of people are speculating just because she recently talked, well, it wasn't recently, but I think it was like earlier this year. She kind of got like suspended for a little bit because she talked about, I guess, analytics, and she said that Taiwan was its own country, which upset a lot of Chinese viewers as well. And then Hololive has like a whole China branch as well. So oh, there's a lot of speculation as to like why, because it kind of just like came out of nowhere. So we don't know if it was just like she stepped down, if it was like a contract, if it is anything, there's so many different factors for it. But that was definitely one thing where everybody was just like, oh no, because it got brought back up again, which it was just like, is this maybe something why? Because a lot of Chinese viewers and everything were like trying to get her just like completely just gone after that because they were so upset about it.
Yeah, it
I'm
could be
here
like
for the
something else to play.
scandal and the drama. So I'm here for her to like hire someone to make her like a brand new model, and she's like under a name that's kind of like similar to the one that she used to have, but not really, under her own channel, and then she can be like fuck everybody.
That would be pretty
Pretty
iconic.
I'm here for the scandal and the
Really.
drama. I'm here for that.
Right. So I wish her the best, At least like there's still the memories of her and everything, but she definitely was like she is pretty iconic, honestly. She really was out there doing the thing. And even though she's gone from us right now, you know, it's still very iconic, and I feel like people are gonna still think about her still for like few years anyway.
You love to see it.
We love to see it.
Wow. Speaking of going out, so Microsoft engineer stole $10 million by selling Xbox gift cards for Bitcoin.
Mhm.
Um, Vladimir Vashuk was sentenced to 9 years in prison and will be charged restitution of 8.3 million. So basically, he was an engineer under Microsoft, and engineers under Microsoft have to test the systems to see if the purchases work. So they have to simulate it in stores with like special accounts. However, he found a flaw in the accounts to where it actually gave you codes for Xbox gift cards. So instead of reporting it to his bosses, he took matters into his own hands. And, little $5 and $10 gift cards down the line over time turned into a massive amount. And he worked to hide his tracks by using other coworkers' accounts to also do the same exploit to hide his tracks, and also sold his cards for Bitcoin on websites that help also hide his traces. But however, after a certain amount of time, Microsoft realized that there was a spike in online purchases for the cards. And when they finally looked into it, they sent federal agents to raid Vashuk's home in 2019. And as defense for himself, he tried to argue that the mass theft was simply an experiment to increase store funding, which did not fly. So, they were sentenced to 9 years in prison and charged with restitution of $8.3 million. So how do
Wild.
y'all feel about this massive amount of mess?
I'm yelling because
The
honestly,
audacity.
the audacity, and also the way that they probably thought like, oh, I can just keep getting away with it, right? Like once after like the first two, they were like, nobody's caught me yet. So I'll just keep doing it. And then all the way to just like get Bitcoin, which is the wildest thing to me. Like,
Yeah.
I really hate this the Bitcoin boom and everything. And just in general, it's the worst because obviously it's also a big thing on scarcity with graphics cards. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like that's so risky, and to risk your own job at like, let's just say like a great company in just the quotations of being like, probably great benefits and all that stuff too. Not in
Hmm.
always just the, they're amazing or whatever. But, it's just like, I don't know. I wouldn't risk my job security and all this stuff just because I want to like sell these for some Bitcoin. Like it's just a whole wild thing. And that's my thought of just reading it too, is just like, oh, so you risked it all just to get some Bitcoin, and now look at you now. You have to owe so much money back and are sentenced to prison, which is not great.
Right. And even then, like they said, like the job that they were working wasn't like crumbs, like it was a decent, like a pretty good job. It was just like not a job where you can, I don't know, buy a yacht or whatever, but like it was still a decent job. So the fact that they were like, I just want to exploit this more to the best of my ability just to get caught and have to live this is like really just their fault for not just taking what they have, like not for granted.
I feel like the thing is like he probably could have gotten away with it if he was just like sticking to small amounts, but then he
Yeah,
made
but
this
they just
bot
build
do it for
on.
him, and like it's just like to the point where like Microsoft like noticed a huge spike in like gift card purchases, and it was all him, and it's like you had a good thing. You could have gotten away with it if you just kept it kept it
Yeah.
chill for like 1 second.
Because I
Right.
don't remember which, I don't know, I don't think it's in this article, but I feel like it was going on for like a few years. If I
Yeah,
remember. So it's just like,
we just got too greedy, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, I
the
think it said
greed.
like from 2017, maybe. Like they were doing it
Mhm.
for a while, but it's just like greed is a powerful thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is
What do you
so
think,
funny
Ruby?
to me. It's like the second week in a row where someone decides to fuck with a big corporation like that and thinking that it's gonna be fine. Like, oh, so last week someone decided to fuck with Nintendo and be like, yeah, let me leak this really quickly, and thinking nothing was gonna happen. And then this week we're talking about someone being like, oh yeah, let me just casually steal money from one of the biggest corporations in the world.
$1 million from
um
Microsoft.
yeah, and thinking that nothing was gonna come of it, like, no. And I think it's so funny to me that you would think someone that's like an engineer is like, okay, they're really smart, like they would think that like every time someone redeems a gift card, they don't have somewhere in their system where they're like, wait, where did this gift card come from? Because it has to be accounted for. Like when you use a gift card of anything, they can track it back to where you bought it, or like the retailer you got it from, or whatever. So if you're doing shady shit, they will be like, hold on a minute, where did they buy this? Like, this is not coming from somewhere. And they're smart enough to think, like, oh, it's coming from the inside. So we have to figure this out. And for someone to just think that they can get away with it is, to me, it's like one of the funniest things to me. It's just like, really? And for what? For Bitcoin of all things? For, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, great. You're making the environment worse for everybody by partaking
Literally.
in Bitcoin, and you're gonna go to jail for like 10 years. So have fun with that. And it's like, for
Right.
what? Like, you
And
could have
lost your
just.
job.
Right. Like, you could have just stayed in a really good job. If you reported that, you probably would have gotten, like, either a raise or probably promoted, because nobody else probably noticed that there was a flaw in the system. So they would have been like, ooh, you did that. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't I don't know. Like, why would you do that? I just don't get it. It's like working at a Starbucks and just stealing gift cards and being like, and giving it to your friends or something like that, and then
Mhm.
them being like, okay, so there's like 20 20 gift cards that are gone, and we got 20 purchases recently from gift cards that are not accounted for. Oh gee, I wonder where that came from. Like, it's, come
Right.
on, come on. It's just it's so silly to me. Like, don't fuck with big corporations like that. Come on. They're gonna
Right.
destroy you.
There's
And
other
then-
ways to fuck with them, but not like this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
especially
it's
to just like $10 million. That's a lot.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
money. Like you shouldn't you shouldn't
But
have
they're not
gotten
gonna
that
notice.
taste.
I think
They
that they're
literally
not
could
gonna
have gotten
notice
away with it
$10
if they like
million
got a
worth of
gift
cards
card
is
every once in
missing.
a while. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they were like, "Oh, let me treat myself. Like whatever. Like let me get a game or two cuz it's like, okay, eat the rich. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't mind that. But like 10 million?
And like trading it for Bitcoin, like you could have gave that to your little cousins, Billy and Bobby and little
Right.
Susie. But no, you gave it to a Bitcoin corporation, trying to get some money that way. Like, no. It's not okay.
Poor Billy and Bobby.
Yeah, poor Billy and Bobby, poor Susie. They could have been rolling in Xbox games.
Right. They could have had it all, but nope.
No.
Uncle what's his face?
Bob.
Messed it all up for everybody.
Right?
I'm sure that's gonna
Yeah.
become like a big thing internally too, right? Because I feel like anytime there's like something in it, like an inside job or anything, like that becomes a huge thing. So that might get other people maybe in trouble.
Yeah,
too.
the person who only stole like a $20 gift card for their birthday, they're now getting investigated, or like they fixed
Right.
the flaw in the system, and now everyone else who was only getting like a couple bucks here and there, they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Well,
We'll
from
move on to
Microsoft
our-
to PlayStation,
The place.
Back to PlayStation in the end.
and back to PlayStation.
It's full circle.
Full circle, the
Cinematic
circle of
parallel.
laughs. The circle of consoles, I guess.
Yeah.
So news came out recently. I guess I don't know if it's necessarily news, but it basically recent developments, recent conversations have sparked in the indie space where basically people have to pay $25,000 to get their game showcased in the PlayStation storefront. If you think about it, doesn't seem very indie friendly, considering that they probably have to pay a similar amount to even get their games on the console to begin with. And then it's like, oh, you have to pay extra to be on the on the storefront. Like, you'll be there buried in the background, or you could pay us $25,000 and we'll get you, you know, a good spot. And it really makes you think that, oh, are the games that they're featuring really like editor choices, or is it just paid for? Especially because, I don't know, as a content creator, I have to specify when things are paid for, when things are promoted, when things are sponsored. So where's that investigation going on for Miss Sony? Because they're surely not disclosing that people are paying for that. And they're leading us to believe that those games are either more popular, more purchased, or their editors' choices, and people that work for them are like, oh my god, I love this game. And now it's like, oh, it's just a pay to win situation, basically. There's a lot of different things that we could get into, because we have a really, really juicy IGN article that goes into a lot of different facets. That's the part that I kind of saw more of for me on my own timeline and stuff like that. And that's the part that I kind of wanted to focus on. But was there anything else on the article that y'all wanted to point out? I guess first we can talk about the $25,000 thing, and then we can add more things if we want to add more things about the article. But yeah, what do y'all think about that?
It's garbage. Like, because like what the article was saying, it's like that's like the average like spending for like an like some of these indie companies for like a game. So like, why would you like you shouldn't have to pay how much you spent on the game just to get it released on a system?
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't make sense. That's like very unfair. Because it's like, yeah, AAAs can just like put it on there easily, but it's just like they have to spend money to put their own game that they also spent money on onto the platform. It just like it doesn't seem worth it. That's why like nobody ever like goes to PlayStation. But PlayStation's like, oh, we're being so kind to like indie developers. We give them like $10 million to help support them. But I'm like 10 million split across like what? How many like tons of developers that are out there? It's not much, especially from like billion-dollar companies. So like I just don't get why they couldn't give more and like not charge an arm and a leg just to have a game on their store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it feels like. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it feels like it's actively created to suppress indie games. Because, like, I feel like that just, it can't be an accident. Like, I feel like that's Sony being like, here, let's focus our promotion on like our own titles, our AAA titles, and then just like screw anybody who doesn't have the money to do this. It's just it feels like it's actively made to suppress indies. That's basically my thoughts on that part of it.
I absolutely agree because it really is just feels like they don't want to have indies on their console, which is really something because they and I saw in the article too that they've been trying to like add indies just like either like just help fund them or like buy indie companies or anything too or some way support them, but then it's like clearly you can't like eat your cake and or whatever the saying is, I don't know. But like you can't have both where you're just trying to be like, yes, I support, but then also no, you guys have to pay to get onto our platform. Like it doesn't make sense. And I feel like if they wanted still like for indies to spend money, I feel like it has to be a very like on a scale where it's like, yes, with the size that indies are, they're not big like AAA companies, they're not EA here. So they should be if they really want to charge them and if they need a middle ground, like charging them way less, but like it's just ridiculous and it's just like you had like a $10 million fund to help support indie developers during just COVID in general. And it's just like, so do you not actually want to support them? Is it just kind of all for show, it feels now?
It
And
also
it's sad.
oh,
Oh, sorry.
sorry. No,
I
you.
was just gonna add one more thing where it's just like it's sad because it's like seeing the competitors like Xbox and Nintendo are clearly just like they have their faults obviously, but like are more open about like here, stuff with indies. While I feel like PlayStation's kind of like look at us, but also like hides things under the rug.
Right.
Yeah, to me this reads like it's very gatekeepy as well, because it's like we're gonna fund the ones that we approve of, and while we can assume that they're operating in good faith, and they're just like, oh, it's just they have a standard that they want to uphold. A part of me also thinks like, what if they're developing a game that's kind of similar to the AAA game that an original Sony studio is developing, and they're like, ooh, I don't want to compete with that, so let's bury them in the back of the store. Which I wouldn't put it past a big corporation to do that. And again, it's not like Microsoft or Nintendo are extremely friendly, but there is definitely a big gap between how many indie titles that easily are just like only available on Steam and the Switch, for example, versus how many indies get announced for PlayStation, right? So it's definitely not a fun thing to see, because it's like, on one hand they're doing the big corporation thing of like, here's how much money we're spending towards this thing that we care a lot about, and then their actions reflect otherwise. It's like, the people that showcase how much they donate to a specific charity, and then their actions contradict what they just did, and then when they get called out for it, they're like, no, but look how much money we raised for that, look how much money we put up like we set aside for that. So it's like, they clearly, there are good intentions to a certain degree of like, yeah, there are funding studios, like that's a thing that is going on. But it's also like, even the $25,000 that were mentioned, that's for like a decent spot. Like, there's mentions of people spending $100,000 to be featured, probably like in the bigger parts of the storefront, and stuff like that. So it's like, you don't know, like, an indie dev is not going to know if it's going to be worth it to begin with. I've even saw conversations before, just to, like, in general, put their games on PS4, and how much a lot of indies don't think it's going to pay them back anyway, so they just don't port their games to PS4 anyway, or PS5. So it's just like, I get it. And like, Sony can easily promote their own games too. It's not like, indies being there is gonna take away from that, because they can just easily have the first page that we go into be like Sony stuff and Sony exclusives and all that. But I don't know. I just wish things like that were more like algorithm based, and it was like actually what gamers want to see, or like cater to people depending on the types of games that they've been playing, rather than it being like, oh, this person paid for, so we're just gonna say it's like featured. And it's like, well, that's an ad that you probably should have to disclose, but regardless, that's another conversation for another day. Yeah, it's just, it's very scummy to me, for the developers and also for the customers, because then you go onto these storefronts and now you don't know if, like, oh, they paid a lot to be there, or if it's a game that's actually very popular and a lot of people are playing it. You know what I mean?
Right. Come on,
It's also really like
FTC
very telling too.
investigation.
It's also very telling too, because I remember like one day, probably about a month ago, I was just like on the PlayStation Store, and I was like, oh, there's like a little indie tab for like that week or whatever, and I click it, and it's like, I'm not even exaggerating, there were probably like 20 to 30 games, and that was it.
Mhm.
Like, there were not many. Like, I reached the bottom of the list after like a minute. Like, it's very telling how PlayStation is, even from like just an average consumer, that like there's no real support or anything for like any indie developers on there.
Yeah, and it's like the popular ones always too. Like the ones that I feel like even people who are, more mainstream in the indie world as well. It's never just like ones that you might find on like itch.io or anything. It's always like, here's this big name, and then we helped fund them as well, most likely. Like
Right.
that's what I'm gonna just say as my thoughts. But yeah, it's just like, it's sad. And it makes me, I have a PlayStation 5. Obviously, it's for like, they have all these exclusives. That's like the main reason. And I always have just been a PlayStation person in general. But it's really just sad, because it's like, well, you never really had that on like a lot of your consoles anyway. It is always just like, it was hard to find indies, which
Mhm.
doesn't help to get small companies out there at all.
Yeah, and just like reading more into this, like the process of developing for PlayStation sounds just so stressful. Because like
Yes.
I'm seeing here like developers like taking months to get like kits for PlayStation hardware to develop, with taking months to get replies on like very simple things. And it's like, it just sounds like such a stressful process. It's no wonder there's not more, like PlayStation isn't more known for indie games, because like they make developing for them like so stressful. I can't imagine. Like, I imagine it would be like more worthwhile to develop for like Steam and for Switch than this experience, because this experience sounds so stressful and like um,
You know it's bad when they have to go for Nintendo. Because Nintendo is not like
Right.
none of these corporations are like perfect. But you know
Mhm.
it's bad when Nintendo is the one where they're like, ooh, let me go for that one. Because I'm sure Nintendo also has their own things. But we actually were talking about this like off stream a while ago, how like sometimes we go on the Nintendo e-store and we're like, how did this get through their like thing? Because like a lot of these games are like, Nintendo is publishing that, and it's like a
Mhm.
lot of those games that you see every once in a while on your Steam, and you're like, oh, okay. And to see those on Nintendo, it really makes you think like Nintendo is usually pretty behind on things, and for them to be the good option for a lot of indies is very telling, and not in a good way for Nintendo, but in a terrible way for everyone else.
Right.
Because Nintendo is
Yeah,
usually
that's
not
really
the
interesting.
cool one, not the nice one.
So telling, honestly. And I think we've talked about it briefly, like on one of the past episodes too, because I think there was like a chart with the prices too, and we already know kind of like that. Like normally indies, like you always just have to like if you're gonna go for Switch, they have to like be like day one in development, also making sure it's gonna be on the Switch because it's like such a process also there, which is sad. So like you said, it's like it's kind of sad, it's kind of funny just to be like, oh, look at Nintendo. They're not that great, but they're out there thriving with these indies. And I will say,
Mhm.
I casually look at the eShop every other day, I feel. And I definitely remember just scrolling down. I was like letting y'all know some of the titles because I was just like, oh, how did this get in here? Like, why is this here? Miss Solitaire
Honestly,
and and titties.
titty solitaire. Oh my god. Honestly, as a Switch user, I'm thriving. I'm having a
Right.
great time.
The Switch is like my go-to for indies, I feel as well, actually. Like this obviously like PC as well, but I feel like just having it like in my hand and I could like sit on the couch and play indies and they're always like for the most part either like feels good for me, the ones that I get, or like if there are ones that I'm like gonna, I don't know, murder people if I'm doing a moiter. It's also nice to just be sitting on my couch, cuddling my dog, doing a mortar.
Aw. So it's so fun and festive and casual. We love
Right.
that.
You can play it on the TV, you can take it on the go. People can look over my shoulders, see that I'm playing some the solitaire game they want. But yeah,
Wait,
it's just I don't even know about Xbox too much, which is the funny thing. I feel like Xbox, I feel like I know probably the least about, but I feel like they're also at least a step above Sony where and I'm sure it's probably easier to get it on the Xbox. I'm not sure. I would have to check on sources about that, but I feel like it would probably be a little bit easier since it's like probably kind of like porting the PC version over.
Right.
And then they've kind of been proud about like indies.
they're probably somewhere in the middle because you see a lot of indies showing up on Game Pass as well. So
Hmm.
they're probably somewhere in the middle where they're probably not the go-to. Because when we saw like the Wholesome Direct and stuff like that, for example, like we saw a lot of them just being like Steam and Switch, and a lot of them we didn't see Xbox or PlayStation. So I'm just assuming that Xbox is probably like you probably have to strike a deal with them in order for it to be on Game Pass, to be on their storefront, and it's probably just either not as bad as PlayStation, but not as good, quote unquote, as Nintendo, probably.
Hmm.
But we can only speculate. We don't know everything, and obviously, we only know the news of PlayStation. We haven't seen, as far as I know, haven't seen really any developers talk about how much it is to put their games on the Switch or Xbox or even the Steam storefront and stuff like that. So we don't really know everything that goes on behind the scenes. So we can only like speculate and discuss based on what we do know. But yeah, that's it for our news stories for the week. Let us know what you think, everybody. We would love to hear your thoughts and concerns. And yeah, let's get into what we're playing, what we've been playing lately. Do you want to go first, Spinny G?
Sounds good. Sounds good, Rubario. So I've been away from the podcast for a little bit, and I've been doing a lot. Um, so like pretty much all of last month, I was in Animal Crossing planning a wedding for Norma and Tipper, my two lesbian cows that live on my island.
So iconic.
And it was so fun to like share their wedding with y'all, and like it was just such a like a beautiful little moment, and I was just like surprisingly like warmed my heart, and I was just like, they're in love.
Yeah.
Like it was started as like a goofy like fun idea. Let's marry these cows in Pride Month. Let's go lesbians. And then I was just like, actually this is really like sweet and cute. And I'm kind of emotional about it. So that was amazing. That was amazing to share with y'all and like be able to do. That was really fun. I finished Famicom Detective Club: The Missing Heir last night. That game. I'm not going to get too into specifics because spoilers, but oh my God, what an incredible story and game. And I'm so excited to play the sequel. I did not go into that game expecting it to be so dramatic, suspenseful, gripping. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I just feel like the entire time I was just like, I have no idea what's gonna happen next. And like even towards the end when like I thought I'd put the pieces together, there was like new information, new shifts, and I was just it blew my mind. So absolutely, absolutely recommend that game. Can't recommend that game enough. And I'm really excited to play the sequel soon, hopefully. So that's what I've been up to. What about you, Ruby?
Iconic behavior. I haven't been up to too much because I actually did take the week off, and a lot of my gaming happens on stream. That's just how I am. I love to share my experience with games with people. So one thing that has been really taking over for me has been Final Fantasy Brave Exvius War of the Visions. It's the Final Fantasy Tactics, but mobile and free, and they recently had they have an event with Warrior of Light, Mr. Final Fantasy, as Pants likes to call him. So I officially got Mr. Final Fantasy on my team. I'm super excited. And there, I forget his name, but there was like a character poll for like popularity, and this like Bara dude, just juicy dude, is the winner of the poll, and I was like, I need. So I got him as well. So we love that.
With those high-waisted pants, those
Uh-huh.
titties out there.
The chicken legs. The juicy
Not
drumsticks,
my ears.
the titties aplenty, and we love to see it. And actually, that's like one of the few Final Fantasies where I've actually seen like a diverse cast of characters. Because like even recently, there's an event where there's like a character that's like darker skinned than the rest of the characters, and I was like, oh, work, and you get him for free, and he's like super, like ultra rare or something like that, and you just have to do a quest. And there's like another girly that's also darker skinned. There's like people that aren't just twinks, you know what I mean? As far as like body shapes and stuff like that. So it's really nice to just like boot up your game and be like, oh, there's fat characters. There's characters that are darker skinned than others. Not everyone looks like a porcelain doll. Even though they did whitewash the girly from Final Fantasy 14. Um,
Well, that was 14's doing. So
Yeah,
we're not
right,
worried
14
yeah,
about
started
Final Fantasy
it.
doing that.
right. They did keep
But still.
Tidus in his original skin tone, so we love to see it. When they did
Oh
the
my
Final Fantasy X
God.
event, they kept Tidus, you know, the skin tone that he was originally. I think they tried to like whitewash him a little bit with like specific fan arts and stuff like that, but not in that game. Yuna is definitely very pale, but not Tidus, not Tidus. I think Orin as well is not like super white too, which is nice because that's the original skin tone as well of his character. But yeah, like I'm not gonna say the Square Enix is perfect with representation because they're not. Especially like recently, we didn't cover it, but they had like a partnership with Twitch, and they only basically chose white people as the creators to be featured to have like drops and stuff like that. So that was a whole thing as well. So not saying that Square Enix is perfect whatsoever, but I really do like this game. The art style is really nice. So if you're like missing that like Final Fantasy Tactics, like Fire Emblem kind of play style, that it's definitely a good choice, especially for a free game as well. Um, but yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it to be honest. Oh, I got into Tekken. Randomly. I've had
Oh.
Tekken. Is it 7? I forget. 6, 7? I don't know.
Did you
7.
do it? Did you do it for Mr. Tekken, who's in the Smash?
No, not at all. Like I booted up my PS4 because I wanted to redeem the Pride theme, which is not that great, but I still redeemed it.
Happy Pride.
Happy Brian.
They were so late on that too, by the way, I feel, right?
It was like mid
Wasn't it?
month, and they were like, "Hi, we have a theme," and I was like, "Oh, great."
Right.
I'm like, getting ready to like decompress and like stop celebrating for a second, and they're like, "Hi, happy Pride." But yeah, I booted up my PS4, and it's been a minute since I booted up my PS4. And I just kind of looked at my games, and I was like, I'm kind of in a Tekken mood. So I just booted it up. I finished like all the side stories, which the story mode isn't that great in that game, to be honest. I really do miss the like OG Tekken games where you went through arcade mode and then you just had a juicy cutscene at the end for each character. Um, but you can unlock like different movies from like different games and stuff like that. So that led me to getting into the original Tekken and playing a little bit of that. But I do want to save it for stream because I do want to experience like those like cursed CGI cutscenes from like 94 or 95. I want to experience that on stream and react to that on stream because those are a journey. um and yeah, that's pretty much it for me, honestly. A little bit Fortnite here and there, but yeah. What about you,
Yeah.
Pants?
Oh my God, what am I playing? I've been playing a little bit of what is it? World's End Club, which is kind of like it's really cute, but then it's also kind of got like the like Danganronpa Zero Escape kind of feels where it's just like, oh, what's going on here? These girlies are trapped in this like what it looks like an underwater dome. Like, why are they there? And then it was kind of like because rated T, but it was kind of just like, oh, like you all have these tasks on your wristband, but it's like another person's task, and if they mess theirs up, like you can sabotage other people. If they do, you're just like, oh, are they dead? Are they just put in a cage? We don't know because I don't want to talk about that anyway. Spoilers. But it was I mean, there's a lot going on because as much as I can say without spoiling, obviously, it is wild for sure. And then you sometimes have to do like you'll get different choices to do things also. And it's just like there's a whole branch on things. And I was like, ooh, this is pretty cool. And all the characters are really cute. And I feel like for the most part, it's better. Like I love Danganronpa, but they always have like the same kind of like here's like this nasty character, and here's like the one who's like too flirty or just like disgusting, and then there's like this character. Like they always have like the same kind of archetypes, and I feel like that's like in a lot of visual novels, and this is kind of like visual novel and platformer. And I feel like I like these characters a lot more. There's a little bit of diversity in it as well, and I feel like it's better because it's like not every character is always like, you know, the fat character is not just always the butt of the joke, which is nice. But it's just really kind of cute also. Everybody is adorable and they're like really brightly colored and everything. And it feels kind of like Pokemon, I feel, in this style. So it's just like, ooh, look at all these kids as like they're sabotaging each other, you know.
Oh my god, it's so cute. And
Yeah.
it's just like
It's like when puppies are like fighting each other and like their way of playing, and we're like, oh, look at them being so cute, and they're like one bite away from like ripping each other's like necks off or something like that, and you're like, oh, look at them being friends, and they're just like going at it.
Exactly. But I love
Ruby and
it.
Dick's fight.
Look
Look at these cute friends.
Dex and I last night playing Fortnite. Just like, oh, so why are you driving like this?
Why are you
We're like-
driving like this?
But yeah, it's actually it's kind of cute. It's kind of iconic. I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Switch games, I feel, because I still need to play, as I keep calling it, Retrograde. The Final Fantasy VII Remake Retrograde. I downloaded it finally. My PlayStation may have been asleep. It was to sleep for a little too long because I was like, yes, I'll sit back down and play it later, and then I kept forgetting because I kind of just let it like download in the background because I had to do like the upgrade to the PS5 and then download it. It was a whole process. Like it felt like a day process, which was too much for me. So I need to play that still, but that is on my radar. I'm trying to get back into Genshin. I've been slacking on it because it's just hard for me to play games. Sometimes if I just go to YouTube and watch mindless videos half the time. But like yeah, I'm trying to get back into Genshin. I started Honkai actually like last night. Honkai Impact, which is the first game that MiHoYo made, I believe. So it's the first one that they made. It's like this action game as well. I prefer it on mobile because I don't know, it's like fully keyboard on PC and you can download it on PC. Uh I just wanted it to like be like Genshin where I can like click my mouse button to for like my attacks or anything, and instead it's like J to like do this one attack and like I for your special and K to
Ooh.
dodge, and I was like,
I
I
look at my keyboard.
right? Like,
Same. I was
don't
like,
know. It feels
where
like
is
it's too
that? Let me. Ooh.
yeah, it feels too close. Obviously, you have like your WASD for moving, but it was just like I don't know. I feel like if I'm gonna play on PC, I have to get like a controller, which I do have my PlayStation controllers. I have not tried it on PC yet, but normally I feel like PlayStation likes to fight you when you plug it into PC. So maybe I'll just have to get an Xbox One, or maybe I'll just get an Xbox. Ooh.
Let me just get a full-on Xbox just to have a
Just get full-on
controller.
Xbox.
Xbox, Pride controller, or Pride console win.
Right?
It was
Please.
like I was really hoping at the end of the Pride they would have just been like, you know what, we'll sell like all our extras.
Happy
Or, like,
Pride, we're selling them.
Right?
yeah,
I want the Pride
like a big
controller so bad.
campaign.
It would be so fierce if in July they made the thing. They were like, "Oh, Pride is all year round here at Microsoft, so we're selling it all year round." That would be so good. Microsoft, listen
imagine?
to us. That would be such a
Right.
that would be such a little stab at everyone else.
I try to at them every once in a while and just be like, when is it?
Just to remind them, like, hi.
Yeah, I really do. I'm about to slide into those DMs if I can and just be like, hello, can you at
Hello.
least sell it? Can I buy it? I want a controller at least, and I want this
Can I
one.
please give you money?
Can I give you money,
Money. You do not have to
please?
give it to me for free. I just want to get it in any way
Right.
possible. I will spend whatever amount that you want. Even if you were like, you have to buy a console, I'll be like, well, that's fine. I'll buy the console.
At this point, you just want an excuse to buy an Xbox.
Right. That's what I'm hearing.
I know I've kind of like gone off the tangent of games I played, but I almost did buy an Xbox from Best Buy the other day.
Well, I almost
think it was,
got
like,
a
last-
PS5, so it's, we look away.
Right.
Both of us are like, not this.
I literally was going through like the transaction almost, got to like basically the last page and was like, maybe I shouldn't.
Not
Oh my
that.
god.
So I did stop myself because I was already like, I always have PayPal as like my thing. So I was like going through, putting that in, was like pick up at my store.
My
And then I was just like, literally the last thing to be like confirmed. And I was like, maybe.
Maybe I
Not
shan't.
Yeah, because I was just like, I'll just try my, try it out. Because Best Buy has a thing where it's like you click it, like add to cart, and it'll be like, you have to keep checking back every once in a while. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but I was like, I clicked it once and it like went in my cart, and I was like, oh, maybe it's fake.
Oh.
And then you said, let's challenge fate. And said no.
I said no. I sat on it and I was like, obviously it's gonna sell out. I do not need it. I have my PlayStation 5. I do not need another console right now. But Game Pass. I'm looking at you.
I
Maybe I'll play more.
perceive.
I'll play
See if
other
the Game
games.
Pass.
Dex, what are you playing?
Well, I'm still doing my little weeklies and dailies in 14. I do my little daily quests and Fortnite, trying my best to level up. And then lastly, I picked up, a little retro tease again. I was playing Need for Speed Underground 2. Did I beat the first game? No, I have not touched it since I tried to play last time, and I was 8 races away from the end, or less than 8, and the races were just hard, and I would select easy difficulty, and they were still eating my ass. So I had to put that game away and say I beat it, but I didn't. And I moved on to the second, and I've been having fun. I know I've mostly enjoyed this one more. I forgot that there was a story to these games, and do the stories make sense? Not really, but they're fun nonetheless. It's just like, oh, you won. Oh, join our posse or else, and then you say or else, and then they're like, oh, or else, and then they like crash you and you nearly die. And so then you're hospitalized, and then when you leave the hospital, you like go to some other place that happens to have the crew of cars that like crashed you at the beginning of the game. So then you have to like race against them. So like that's the story. So it's like messy and very straight, but I ignore the straightness and just have fun because I love a racing game moment. So I've been vibing with that.
I was about to ask, like, what do you mean by straight? Like, are the roads straight? Is everybody straight?
No, it's that the girly with big fucking tits just in our face, being like, "Oh, you want a car? Well, I'll be in charge of you," and shit like that. And then like they were like, "You won the babe," and I'm like, "No, I didn't, girl.
No.
I won my race. That's what I run." But yeah.
My favorite thing to do in racing games is just to turn off the in-game soundtrack and listen to my own extremely homosexual soundtrack.
Blasting K-pop as I mute all this like rap hip hop music.
I'm just like bopping down the road to Luna and just swerving wildly because I'm gay and I can't drive. I'm having
literally me.
Now the real question is, when do we all start playing Sonic Racing?
Oh,
Maybe soon. Maybe that's coming soon.
Maybe
Maybe
so.
Soon TM.
Speaking of what's coming soon, do we all want to go down the line and talk about our channels, where people can find us, content that people can look forward to? What about that?
sure. Maybe so.
Can I start us off, Dex?
Sure. Hi, I'm Dextralicious. You can find me on Twitch at Dextralicious, probably streaming art whenever I feel like it. You can catch me on YouTube at Dextralicious, where I should hopefully be uploading some K-pop album unboxing soon. So look out for that. But you can also find all of my like gaming videos that are basically just uploaded from my PS4 on my YouTube. And then if you want to see me rant about K-pop or men being irritating, you could go to my Twitter at DexisAMS. Yes, me. What about
Yelling.
you, Pam?
Hi, I'm Pants Trivian. I'm that on basically almost everything. On Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I think that's all. I don't remember all the social medias. I kind of stopped going with the schedule, but kind of like do have a schedule, but I normally stream Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. I'm a little VTuber. Sometimes I play variety games. Sometimes I'm doing a little bit of art. If my tablet wants to work. But yeah, that's where you can find me. What about you, Ruby?
As I said, I took this past week off. I really needed it. I feel like a lot of queer creators, you're probably gonna see a lot of us taking breaks just randomly in July, especially now towards the beginning. But I am going to be streaming tomorrow, as of the time we're recording this, so Sunday. If you're listening to this on podcast services, maybe this already happened, so you can watch the VOD, I guess, at twitch.tv/Project Ruby. But yes, I'm going to be doing a new fundraising for charity. I'm going to be raising money for Rebuilding Alliance. They are an organization that is dedicated to helping Palestinian families in need and advocating for equal rights. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a Japanese food mukbang that we reached the goal of on a previous charity stream, which should be fun. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm gonna celebrate my 2,000 follower milestone as well, so that's gonna be exciting. I'm thinking of doing like a 6-hour stream. I love that this is happening tomorrow, and I'm like, think maybe this is gonna happen like that, and maybe this is how it's gonna go. But just
Maybe she'll be 6 hours.
exactly, maybe. Making plans at this time of the day in this economy, I don't know about that. Um, but yeah, other than that, like I'm gonna go back to playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and beat that game. I have a few games queued up after that from like charity fundraisers and stuff like that. So we're gonna get into those as well. We perceive, that's basically it. Everything at Project Ruby. I just also posted an article that I got featured on for Kotaku, talking about my experiences with the not the LGBT tag, with the new identity tags, alongside a lot of amazing fellow marginalized creators. So definitely an amazing read. You can find that on my Twitter, which is also at Project Ruby. So yeah. What about you, Spin?
I am on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok, all at Spinblend. Next week, I am going to be taking one of those queer streamer breaks. Because I'm going to be going to visit my partner, so that will be a fun time. But after that, I'll be back the week after next, and I'm running this huge month-long birthday event across my stream and my shop. So I'm planning events all month long. I have a sub goal to fund an April May cosplay for my drag VTuber Lynn Blend. so we can play Phoenix Wright as April May. And I also have a 25% off sale going on for the whole month in my shop and 2 new cake-themed soaps. That's what I got going on.
Iconic behavior. We'd love to see it. Yes, please follow us. You can find all of our links and our fellow co-hosts that weren't able to make it to today's episode all in our descriptions everywhere. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We're going to be back next week, same time, same place at Just Gaming Tingz everywhere. Look up Just Gaming Tingz Podcast on your favorite podcast services to find us over there and over on YouTube as well, because we don't have custom URL links for those. So, teehee. But yes, we're getting ever so close to our 100 follower mark, so maybe if you follow us for free on twitch.tv/justgamingtingz, maybe we're gonna plan a special stream for that. But you didn't hear it from me. All right, everybody, have a good week, stay safe, and have fun with your games, y'all. Bye.
Right.